Alrighty, guys. Good. Oh, well, I was gonna say good morning. But it's like 3 minutes to 12 or noon here, so I'm gonna say afternoon. Welcome back. So I just went through going through my playlist. And I saw this one where it was saying Australian men Mr. Oh yes. Oh great. This sounds like fun. I assume this is about Andrew Tate's take on Australians. I don't give a shit what that loser says, frankly. I mean, yes, he's rich, guys, and he's got a lot of wealth over there, but I don't give a shit about that. And he's very little. He's a POS. So I don't really care what he's got to say, but I want to listen to it anyway.
Welcome back to the channel. We're back on the internet together again today. And I'm calling all you Australian men out there out. You're all anti-feminist, misogynist extremists, apparently. Interesting video to talk through today. Let's jump in.
Definitely.
Australia's gone mad.
Welcome back to the program. Well, there's been an interesting study from the University of Melbourne published across newspapers today claiming more than a third of Australians.
Yeah, you're gonna say it from Melbourne. Melbourne, the capital, the work capital of Australia. Yeah, I don't think we should be listening to what we say too much. And I'm from Melbourne, so
Australian boys have misogynistic attitudes, and 40% of Australian boys support violent extremist ideologies.
oh god.
So there we go. University of Melbourne doing great work here.
Let's
Absolutely.
give him a clap.
Melbourne, and by extension Victoria, the woke capital of Australia. But let's just say it's Melbourne.
I just said that.
Hotbed for anti-male, misandrist beliefs.
Told you guys.
So they've gone and done a study and said of a few hundred kids, because some of them watched Andrew Tate, that they hate women. And
Well, that's true.
right?
I mean, I don't like Andrew Tate, but not everything he says is bullshit. A lot of it's
pushing an agenda
got
ideology without much substance. Gee, sounds a little bit what these reports are doing. I'd call this anti-male extremism.
The study into the link between misogyny and violent extremism was done in the wake of the Bondi Islamist attack, we're told. Which
one more
I find it
surprise.
interesting. Two alleged Islamists shoot up a bunch of Jews, and a uni researcher thinks misogyny must have played a role. Joining me is
Here we go. It's all about, it all comes back to this. It's all the agenda. That's what I mean. That's why I always say that universities are just complete woke hotbeds that breed absolute maniacs most of the time. If you're not doing anything that is commerce related, engineering, STEM, whatever you want to call it, you're dealing with lunatics. Gender studies, all this sort of rubbish.
I don't mind this guy. This guy's pretty cool. The guy doing the video here.
And the adults and leaders.
Well, I like listening to him.
Absolute crazy. Let's try and link.
And he actually says it without swearing so much. He just
to kids or younger
he does
men
it a good way, I reckon.
What is deemed extremist anti-woman content. I'm going to have to disagree with what that stuff is. I don't think it is.
Let's speed it up, guys. It is a little bit slow. Oh, it is up.
Men watch any content that highlights.
All right, let's go a bit faster because it's a bit slow.
And provide men with education.
Not so much the guy, it's just the nature of the video.
Tools, how to deal with certain situations with females.
There we go.
Mostly through, once again, information. That's seen as extremism. Because women are protected and women are not allowed to be criticised, especially in Australia.
Apparently.
If you say anything about a woman, you are persona non grata.
National Education Editor for News Corp, Susie O'Brien. Susie, this was a study of 500, 600 boys aged 13 to 17 that sought to find a link between what it called anti-feminist attitudes and support for violent extremism. The Herald Sun...
Isn't feminism extremism? Sorry, hang on. Feminism shouldn't be the base to which all women operate in the world. Feminism is trying to be superior, trying to degrade any influence or standing that men have in society for their own betterment. That's extremism. That's radicalism. Feminism is that every man should be anti-feminism. Feminism isn't about equal rights and treating people with respect and dignity. It does the opposite. It treats men with a lack of respect and dignity, and it is spreading. So if you're anti-feminist, you're a problem now. Now people will go, no, I'm a feminist, G-man. I'm a feminist. Do you know what you're saying? Do you know what you're saying? Now feminism, once again, this isn't about women and men being looked at on an even level through whether it be education, whether it be opportunities in the workplace, etc. No, this is about literally women punching down onto men. And that's widely accepted. Like, feminism is quite literally the female version of Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate and the people that are watching his content is a response to how the world has gone. I'm not saying everything he says is good. I'm not saying anything like that. I don't think he's extremism. He's an entertainer. He's a character. He's a clown. Right? He says some good things, some good information for kids, but he's gotten famous by saying outrageous stuff. People can't see through him. How can you not?
Yeah, that's how he got popular.
Of misogynistic and extremist attitudes makes it an important and overlooked part of the puzzle in our countering violent extremism efforts and a possible early warning sign as a pathway to radicalisation. Now, I'm not disputing that misogyny is a problem, but I do...
Is it? I think misandry is probably a bigger problem. What is misogyny? I would love to know the actual proper
definition
application of this word. Is that outright men being piggish and downgradish to women? Right, that's the way I see it. That is being misogynist. Looking at a woman saying, she's a woman, she doesn't know what she's talking about, she's a woman. You can't trust her with anything.
Oh,
anything on
God.
responsibility. You know, they get
You
women.
know, I used to say that to one of my friends as a joke. And now I realize that I don't think I'll ever say that to her again. Because the idea of saying that she doesn't know what she's talking about because she's a female is stupid. I mean, it makes no difference if you're a male or female, regardless. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Business because they're emotional and can't make decisions and all this sort of stuff. Maybe that's misogyny. Misogyny isn't just saying questioning what women are doing. As I said, it's a misandrous society that we're living in. You don't want to be a guy working in the Australian corporate world, especially in Victoria, especially in Melbourne. You're overlooked.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to lose out on opportunities for DEI candidates, LGBT+. It's anti-male. We live in an anti-male society.
I find this study pretty unfair to boys when you consider the questions put to 13-year-olds. And I find it pretty convenient at a time when the focus should be on radical Islam rather than anti-feminist attitudes among Year 8 schoolboys. What did you make of the study?
Yeah, this was an exclusive story by my colleague Mary Papadakis today. Look, I think it's just alarming and depressing, really. And it wasn't done in the wake of the Bondi attack. It was released in the wake of the attack, but the research was done some years ago. What they're looking at is the nexus between anti-feminist views, anti-Semitic views, violent extremism, and sort of pro-white.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. Let's just blame men. Let's just blame men for everything. Australian men. Yeah. Let's just try and find a link. That's what I'm talking about. Feminism is a huge problem, and there's been a huge increase in it. I'll call it toxic feminism. It isn't about women saying, no, we want to get paid the same. That's not feminism. Carrying on about patriarchies and matriarchies and blah, 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 blah. That's fucking feminism rubbish. It goes even worse than that.
All right, I don't know.
End all men. Men are trash. It's everywhere. It's all over the world. This toxic feminism completely goes unchallenged. It goes uncommented on. No one comments on it. And if you do, you're part of the problem. You're a misogynist. How dare you? G-Man, you are a misogynist. And that extends to all of these people who watch his show and might agree with some of his views. Yeah, misogynist, racist.
Hey, I don't give a shit. If you want to call me that,
Power,
if you want to call me that, go for it. I don't give a shit on your retarded opinions. I mean, call me what you want. I know who I am. I don't need to pander to everyone else.
views. And even in boys as young as Year 8, we find 40% saying that they, for example, they're anti-views, like views against women. So things like that they think you can use violence to get what you want. They think that women use sexuality to manipulate men. And they think that...
I don't think most females do it, but I know there's a lot of females who do it. I go on Snapchat every time I go on, there's like a few hundred girls trying to get me to buy their friggin' apps and news and stuff like that. So I get where some guys are coming from. I mean, Snapchat's a breeding hole for that kind of shit. I haven't really got it on like Twitter or Instagram or anything else, but mostly on Snapchat. That's why I think some people see females like that, and I do get it. But not for the majority of females, they're not like that. It's just not true.
that in marriage you can a husband should be able to force a wife to have sex even if she doesn't want to. And so
What are you talking about?
it's part of the puzzle in terms of extreme violent views. And I think as uncomfortable as it is, we need to know what some of these views are.
Well, what person in their right mind would think that that is okay? And they're saying that all men are doing this and that the content that men might watch for guidance and information on the internet or just to talk about men's issues is all misogynist content that tells men to force themselves on women who don't want to be intimate with them. I'm going to bite my tongue here.
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting study. I looked at some of the questions that were put to these boys, and as I said, many of them Year 8, Year 9 boys, I felt like I'm not so sure you would understand that boys would be able to understand some of the nuance of those questions. Anyway, interesting study. I want to ask you about an article you wrote, and no doubt my two 20-year-old boys will be home watching. So please help me out here, Susie. Your article was pointing out it's not unusual for kids to be living at home with mum and dad until they're well into their 20s, even their 30s. You wrote...
How could it not? How could it not be? It's not about being a kid old. The society is failing young people, has failed young people, they've been left behind. That is a real shame.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that. One, well, for me specifically, my mum's unwell, so that's the big reason why. Actually, the main reason. But for the most part, it's cost of living's expensive, food, petrol, all that shit. Then you got the housing market, which is terrible to begin with, because we have such a high amount of immigrants coming into the country. Now, I don't have any problem with immigration. Just, it's too high. That's all I'm going to say. It's too high. I don't care what country you come from. If it's America, New Zealand, I don't know, Iran, Iraq, whatever the case may be.
You want to get a leg up, if you've got your head screwed on, you've got the
Damn
availability
saliva.
relationship with your parents, that's your way to do it. Stay at home. save a whole bunch of money on living expenses, and just stack your money. That's a real chance for a younger person to maybe get into the property market these days within a reasonable time frame.
Yep.
That's why people are doing it. Well, people are giving up. They don't care. Rent's expensive, life's expensive, cost of living expensive. It's like you go and move out. You're supposed to have all this independence, but you're working to just survive, just to pay the bills, and maybe have a little bit of fun. So I can understand when people go, "No, what's stuff? I'm staying home." Why go out and deal with all this when the real benefit of being having freedom, being an adult, having optimism for the future, and building up is slowly being eroded away by cost of living crisis, but also the real dream of most people, I would say, is to have a place that's yours. You don't have to be stuck in the rental market and being subject to being told to move on. That's probably one of the biggest fears I say of people who are renting and big price rises. That's why people want to have their slice of their own place to live. They can hang pictures on the wall and do what they want, and paint it and do things in the garden if they're got a little courtyard, or if they've got some land, depending on where you live, of how affordable that is. Anyway, I know I'm ranting, but that's why you're here.
With nearly half of young adults still living at home, overindulgent parents.
But they also make. I'm going to let it play, right? But they also got these kids sleeping in bed, like he's a complete loser. You walk around the house in his jocks, and he's 20 years old drinking or he's 30 years old with his gut hanging out, like something off Step Brothers. He goes to the fridge. The parents have friends over. He just walks out, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, just gets the chocolate milk, 3 litre bottle, just sculls it, drips down the front of his shirt. I'm sure it happens, but that isn't what the problem is here. And they got a man. That's misogynist. That's misogynist, because that's a man at home. This is once again they're putting a young man here, saying it's young men who are lazy. What about a lot of women will stay at home too, live with the parents. Any young guy who's out there, maybe dating or looking for a girlfriend, even in their 30s. You get women 35 plus living at home, having their expenses paid for them. Very common. I might date a guy who lives at home, but they can live at home. Anyway, I've gone on a tangent here.
Yeah.
Create a generation of kidults. You say we're raising a generation of young people who've learned helplessness, and their helplessness is being sustained rather than challenged. Am I failing my kids by still allowing them to be at home at age 20?
Oh, look, I've got a 20-year-old still living at home. I've got a 22-year-old still living at home. And look, it's fascinating because this has been a massive generational shift in like the last 10 years where even people our age, in their 50s and 60s, are deferring retirement, and they are making retirement plans based on the assumption that they will have ongoing financial responsibility for their adult children. And pretty sure our parents weren't doing that 30 years ago. Like there was none of that kind of assumption. But you know what?
Yeah, because things are affordable. You could move out at 18, save for a few years, and own a house. There wasn't any need for people to be sheltered and say, "Oh, all right, Simon, stay at home. You go work full time. Do your degree or do your trade. Stay with mum and dad, and to stay for 10 years and save up a few $100,000 and drop down a deposit on a house that's $1.5 million. That's a crazy thought, isn't it?"
Oh yeah.
I've spoken very recently, had a bit of an exchange with somebody who's 70 plus, and they were saying to me, they're saying that young people are lazy, even people 40, or people that own houses, you own a house, you're a loser. Without realising that back when they bought their house in 1970, I asked him, I said, "Hey mate, how much was your house?" He goes, "I was like $36,000 back then, and that was a lot of money, all right." And me and my wife, we saved. We had one wage paying the mortgage and one wage on living expenses. And we grinded for 5 years to pay off a fully paid off house in a good suburb in Melbourne. That now is probably $2 million median price.
Goodness gracious.
$1,000 back in the 70s. Let's just make an assumption. It's probably $140,000 in today's money. Maybe let's just say it's 200. I don't have the calculator out. I pulled the calculator out at the time. I can't remember what it came out to. So I said, "Mate, if I bought a $200K house now, yeah, I could probably do that. I could do it by myself. Crank down for 5, 6 years, 7 years. Live like a monkey, pay that thing off straight away. Life is free." Like this particular person hasn't had any household debt since they were 28 years old. And so I can't understand why people are staying home, because they're not plugged in to what the current situation is. Anyway, I know I'm ranting.
Yeah, sometimes you get a bit carried away, dude.
Reflecting on my own, perhaps too permissive parenting, probably let them get away with too much because, we want them to be safe. We want them to save a bit of money. So we say, "I'll stay home a bit longer." But, they're very obliging, which makes it easier. They're happy to sit at home and wait for us to come home and cook them dinner. They're more than happy to borrow our car because they've got no petrol in theirs. And they will even lift up their feet so we can back in underneath. So,
Yeah, I do get where they're going.
Make it easy for us.
Susie, I've got to go, so just help me out here. My kids are watching. Should kids pay board, yes or no?
No,
Yes.
So they're full-time students, but the minute they have full-time jobs, they will be paying board, that's for sure.
Yeah, as soon as they hit 18, I think they should pay it because even if you don't have a job, you can get Soundlink. So, yeah, even 16, if you can get a job, they'll probably be beneficial. I mean, maybe not a full board, like the whatever board you're going to plan to take off them, but I think you should pay at least a quarter of half the board that you would have charged them to get them get used to the idea of it. So once they turn 18, it's much more easy process to do. But that's my opinion, I guess. I don't know what people will think.
I don't know about that. I'm in two minds. Yes, they should get some responsibility. Once again, that money you'll take it. Unless you need that money, you yourself maybe not stable. You still got a mortgage. You maybe not earning a lot, and obviously you got to feed a kid who's an adult. That's another adult in the household. I get it. Like you got to get some money for that. If you're not stable, but if you're stable, taking rent off your kid who's literally against all odds here, trying to make it these days. You're taking rent and board and food and that. I don't know, I'm in two minds about it. I don't think you should if you can afford not to do it. It's not giving people a free ride and they're being lazy and not doing anything about it. Now, if they're fully taking the piss, right, and they're just not saving, they're not progressing, then yes, hit them with board. But if they're saving and you can see, like, okay, 2, 3, 4 years, you help them out. It's a way of helping them out. You might not be able to give them the bank of mum and dad, but this is another way of being a bank of mum and dad because you're saving them 30 grand a year on renting a shitbox apartment plus all the living expenses. Probably 50 grand you're probably saving them if they're frugal a year. So that is a good way to be bank of mum and dad. Anyway, that's just me. I'm sure I'll have people who will say I moved out at 18 and no one else should be able to get a leg up, and I get that. But as I said, it's becoming one of the only ways now for a lot of young people to have an optimistic future.
Oh yeah, definitely. The age is very different, guys. It's completely different. I mean, I get what some people were saying and all that, but yeah, it's not feasible. It's not like the 80s and all that, guys, where houses were super cheap. Well, maybe not super cheap, but you know, cheaper. I mean, as you said, some places in Melbourne are like $2 million. Some of these houses around here are over $1 million. Or getting to that area. And this area is not even a great area. It is not a great area here. Not a bad area, obviously, but not a great area. But yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think there's a lot of work to do. But yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do about that, guys. Cheers.